Well, hello ladies and gentlemen. This will be a rather strange video. The whole thing will be about Red Dead Redemption 2 modding, specifically spawning issues that you might encounter when you mod the game quite heavily or less heavily. This video is not for everybody. This is basically a niche of a niche, maybe of a niche, so this is for people who like to mod Red Dead Redemption 2, who like to experiment with more heavily modded game, and for a subset of people who are actually interested in solving this so-called spawning issue problem. The community only opened its eyes basically a year ago when a post was made over on Red Dead Redemption 2 mods forum about this. I will put that into the video here, and let's just say that it blew open the floodgates, so to speak. And what I've been doing for the past 2 months or so, I've been modding the game, and for the past 2 or 3 weeks I've been testing exclusively to see if it's possible to solve, first of all, this issue. Spoiler alert, it is, but you have to cut down your mods, basically. There are some factors that can help. By and large, there is no definite answer that yes, if you do this or that, then it will solve it, okay? So it's still in the air. But more recently, I developed a way to measure how fucked your game is, basically, because there are levels to this. So let me just load in to Red Dead Redemption 2 real quick. I will show you a few different scenarios. First of all, we're gonna load into a game that has no mods in it, which means that I deleted the ASI loader and the script hook file. So without these, no mods will load into the game. I will start the game right now. I want to tell you beforehand that, let me just explain how the issue is or what happens. So basically what happens is if you mod your game heavily, or not so heavily, then you might experience spawning issues with trains more noticeably. So trains might stop spawning altogether in your game, or you notice there are no passengers on these trains. If you visit Saint Denis, the big city in Red Dead 2, the trams will have no people on it, or some trams will have no people, other trams will still have people on them. It's not an exact science, but I developed a way to kind of measure how stable your game is. And now I'm just gonna load up a chapter 1 completed save game. But I tested it in other save games as well, and it works the same way. So you should be able to reproduce it without any issues. Important part is to always take the approximately the same steps, so you know that you're testing on an even ground. Excuse me while I take a sip here. And we move into Valentine from the south side, where the station is, where the train station is, and we casually gallop around these tracks. I'm not rushing with the horse, so I give everything ample chance to spawn all the time, okay? Again, this is vanilla, no mods, so you will see, this is basically the baseline. You will see what is supposed to happen. Don't pay attention to the events, don't pay attention to the animal spawns. Those are not a good indicators of this issue at all. I will tell you all about more interesting things when we get to them, and we soon get to them, I swear. This is not a long test, okay? So don't have to worry about that. I will not take up too much of your time. So first of all, when we arrive in Valentine, what we do? We just casually start looking around. What I do usually, just pan the camera to the left slowly, then pan the camera to the right slowly. And this kind of forces a train to spawn if you move around here in the far distance. You probably have heard it by now. It went over the horizon. This is specific to this chapter. What I mean by specific is that it's if you try different saves from different chapters, trains might not be easy to force to spawn here, because trains are very finicky in this game. Trains are very scripted in some instances. So looking at strictly train spawns is not a good indicator of this issue. All right. So even if you have train spawns in your game, that could mean that it's just a super scripted train spawn. It's very hard to nail down if something is like a super scripted train spawn or a more of a less scripted train spawn. I will talk a bit more about this in a second, just I will continue my way. And I call this run the chicken run for a reason you will soon see. So I'm still just panning the camera around left and right to give everything a chance to spawn, of course. Because in video games, when you are not looking at things, that's when they usually spawn. So just slowly, casually walking into this auction yard. And what you notice there are a few chickens there that are kind of appearing. And those are the chickens that we are gonna be looking at here, as strange as it sounds. And what you always want to see chickens spawn here, okay? There are 7 to 10 chickens that are always here, like more behind the barn. And then we forced another train spawn here. Okay, this always happens on this chapter 1 save file that I'm using. I will link everything for you. So we force a train spawn always, every single time. Alright, but looking at these train spawns is not an indication of a game is stable or not, because this is a super scripted spawn by itself. This next step is gonna be a simple one. I'm just gonna demonstrate it for you how it looks like on vanilla, but basically the test is just easy. We are not using any trainers for this. You don't have to. So basically just gonna buy a ticket. We're gonna move to Saint Denis. So if you don't see people on the trains, that's already like a huge issue. Alright, when people on trains disappear, that's already super bad. Super bad. So yeah, people on the train. Some people say that the issue is connected to different resolutions as well. I'm not sure. I haven't found evidence of this at all. I tried running the game in 720p with the same settings. It didn't make a difference for me personally, but you know, nothing is certain. What is certain that you can measure how fucked you are. So what you want to see, like all the time on a vanilla game. It's interesting now it didn't have any people, but in a vanilla game, basically like 9 out of 10, almost 10 out of 10 times you want to see people on these trams, okay? Like so. Like even when you're running pretty quickly. If you see that several trams don't have people, that means that your game is not stable. Like, what does that mean in the grand scheme of things if you don't see people on trams, right? I'm not sure, but it could be an indication that the game cannot purge its memory banks quickly enough to spawn, you know, these lesser priority things, because pads on trams are super low priority, and that could indicate a bigger issue with your spawns in general. So now you see how it looks like, basically. You want to see people on the trams, almost every single one of them, okay? Like I usually see 10 out of 10. Now as you can see, then this next one will have people on it as well. So that's how it looks like on vanilla. And you can measure this quite easily. And now I will show you something, how it looks like on a game that I know is not working. And hello everybody. I'm back after some technical difficulties, including my footage being corrupted for the rest of this video. I'm back to re-record this for you guys, for your ears and eyes. Basically where we just left off, we tested how it looks like in a vanilla game, the chicken run testing method. But now we're gonna test it on a version of LML, you know, that's Lenny's mod loader. I will have a separate video on the topic. I will, you know, just link that when it's ready. It's not ready yet. It's gonna be a comprehensive modding guide that will include things like what you can do if you want maybe a more stable game. Some tips and tricks. I want you to really understand this, that this thing is not set in stone. What I'm giving you here is a tool for you to be able to measure how broken your modded game is, basically. Load up our munitions mod list, which is just munitions in here, nothing else. And while that is loading here, I want to tell you all about some game configs. So basically, I've used a lot of game configs here, but I don't think they are helpful in this spawn issue at all. Sometimes they can correct things like errors when you're loading in, like you get these nasty FFFFF errors, like people in the modding community will know what I'm talking about. But specifically this one, specifically these spawning issues, I tried it with Tram passenger spawns. I don't see evidence of game configs being helpful to prevent it or to make more pads appear on trams or more chickens appear in Valentine. Tried setting different limits, you know, pet pools, vehicle pools, scenario pools were upped to see what difference it makes. It doesn't. And I would say that any changes to the game config will probably take like internal game memory from somewhere else. So just be careful with them. Obviously, feel free to try them. This specific game that we are in right now, this has the built-in munitions game config. And this is an older version of munitions that I know that causes issues. That's why we are using it specifically to test for problems. Because I want to demonstrate how it looks like when you have issues. And that is what this is. What you will not see here, or you won't really notice the difference in this, the regular wildlife should still spawn, you should still see plenty of animals roaming about. Like the random events of the O'Driscolls and so on and so forth should still work just fine. They will not be broken. So don't, when you're measuring how stable your game is, don't look at those. Those are not good indicators. And chasing trains, also not a good indicator, because train spawns are so random depending on the region where you are in, depending on which chapter you are in at the moment. Some are more heavily scripted, some are less heavily. Some spawn further away from the player when you pass a checkpoint. Some spawn pretty close, so those are not a good indicators. But this is a good tool, I believe, at least. So what you do again, you arrive to Valentine, you pan your camera left and right slowly as you move to the back of the station. You might hear a train leaving. That is normal. That happens on a vanilla game as well, and it happens very modded games as well, like a train leaving Valentine.
Morning, sir.
It's like a forced spawn. There are some situations when I just noticed that you can force a train to spawn here in Valentine for whatever reason, at least in this save. In other saves it works differently, so if you leave this chapter, you come back later, you might not be able to force this train spawn anymore. But you just keep looking around, slowly panning the camera while we move around the back of these stone formations here. And you see everything looks normal until we turn around and look at these chicken pens. You see that? Again, there are 0 chickens around. So you might hear chickens here, but those are ambient chicken noises that the developers like put there, you know, as like barnyard noises. But there are no actual chicken pads that are spawning, and you can see this easily. Like, look at this, no chickens anywhere. And we forced a train spawn again. This train might go poof in a second, might not go poof. Okay, it went poof. Like, It usually does on a modded game, but I've seen it go poof on a vanilla game as well. So I don't think that's a good indicator of anything. Let us go and just check the trams real quick in Saint Denis. So the same method again. We're always doing the same thing in order to make it scientific, to get good results, as scientific as you can possibly make such a silly thing. You might still notice that people should be spawning even on these busted games trains, because they just do. If you lose people in trains, like altogether, trains specifically, that's already an indication that something went very wrong, okay? If you take away something again from all of this, is that there are levels to this spawn problem. First, you will usually lose the tram passengers along with those chickens in Valentine, then probably the passengers on the trains, and then finally probably the trains as well. But again, trains are... I wouldn't trust them. Chasing trains around the map is not a good way to test if your game is stable or not. Trains are scripted as heck. What is a good indication though? Checking multiple trams. In a vanilla game, usually 9 out of 10 or 10 out of 10 trams will have people in them. And that is what you want. So if you own this game, you will see 0 out of 10. So that's one. There are still levels to this, so you might see people on like 2 or 3. Then you might not see people on the next 5 trams, and that is not good. You want to aim for as high as possible, so you want to see people on at least 8 out of 10 trams. I would say anything below that, I don't think your game is very stable, and you probably have a higher chance of developing issues later down the line. Tested this 10 times with each save, so like 30 times. I tested it in different configurations. I have a good amount of testing behind me when I'm presenting all of this to you now. Okay, so as you can see, that's done. This will have no people. And that's it basically. You want to do the chicken run and the Saint Denis run, the tram run basically after that. And I will show you a third possibility here in a second. And this is going to be our third and final part of this video. I am switching out this munitions LML installation to my curated mod list, and I will show you something. My curated mod list has around 80 mods inside, plus my ASI mods altogether. So that's a lot of mods, and it takes up 626 megabytes of space currently. The munitions mod that we just tested and we know that's busted, it's only 330 megabytes. So it's not necessarily about the size of your mods here. That is the cause of this issue. We don't exactly know what is the exact cause of your problems. In this mod list that I'm using, there are horse replacement mods, and there are like all horses are replaced, and there are restored pedestrians. So there are several hundred texture files that are being put into the game. I will explain the different ways you can kind of put them into your game in a follow-up video, in like a full comprehensive modding guide tutorial kind of thing. But I wanted to get this out for you guys because it's been really weighing on me for the past few weeks. And if I just don't put my thoughts out, I completely will just lose them after a while. And I feel like I have a good method of measuring how stable a game is at the end of the day. This is not necessarily about solutions, but once you can measure in a manner that is kind of always gonna be there for you to test, I think you will be able to move forward with that, and you can produce a game or mods that are much more stable in a way. Loading up save files is completely fine. You don't have to exit the game every time, delete your save games. Loading is okay. So I got the same results with loaded games in the same game session, just like when exiting and fully reloading the game itself. Several takeaways why we just go here. Basically, I want you to know, again, just to reiterate, do not trust train spawns, or do not start chasing trains to indicate how bad your game is regarding spawns. You have to chase these low priority spawns like the tram pedestrians, and you have to look at the chickens in a way that you can always count on, you know, in a way that you know that they're always there every single time, so there's no question about it, that they're always here. Tested this on different times of day. So from 8 AM to 8 PM I tested it. I tested it on a different chapter save file, and it's always the same. The only part that's not the same here with this Valentine chicken run is the forced train spawns. On different chapters, trains don't always spawn the same way. But do not trust the wildlife spawns in general. They are not a good indicator of spawn issues or not. If you see, if you see or don't see many animals, that doesn't matter. Even on a heavily modded game, that will be, you will see a lot of animals. You might see trains on a heavily modded game. Trains are extremely scripted, so don't trust that. Okay, here we go. So this is my curated mod list, and I just wanted to show you something that I think might be in between the fully broken and the vanilla state. I aimed it to be as good as vanilla. So we just go left, go right, you keep looking around. Sometimes you force a train spawn in distance, sometimes you don't. You always see kind of the same scenarios play out with the pads, but like the normal human pads are pretty high priority. And the ones that are in vehicles are also relatively high priority. You shouldn't lose those only in extreme circumstances. You move around the back of these rocks here, and the same thing. Just keep looking left, keep looking right. And what you want to notice is, of course, the chickens are here. So the chickens are such a good indicator of stability. You always want to see like 7 to 10 chickens all together. So that's like, I don't know, 6, 7, and then there's the rest. So that's about like 7 to 10 chickens right there. And sometimes you force a train spawn here, like so. Sometimes this train goes poof, sometimes this train doesn't go poof. I don't know if that's any indication of stability or not by itself. Okay, so I've seen this train disappear on vanilla. I've seen it not disappear on a modded game, like this one. And this is a pretty heavily modded game, but I curated it exactly for this issue. So I checked for issues a lot. I removed mods, and I checked again, and I checked again. Okay.
I'll be tending to you shortly.
Let's just check on the trams. And after that, basically we're done testing here. And then I think by now you know this testing methodology. You've seen it 3 times. This is the chicken run that you just saw. And then the send and eat tram run is the second part of this, because I think the trams are more sensitive. Like if you measure 10 trams and you only have people in 5 of them, that's not acceptable. Not acceptable at all. You have to get, I think, at least 8 out of 10 trams with people to call your game stable. Obviously, there will be people on the train. Okay, let's start counting trams with people inside them. In this run on our vanilla game, we saw 9 out of 10 trams with passengers, and that is what we're comparing against basically. Okay, so we are 1 for 1 right now. Let's find 2 for 1. Sometimes you see only one person on a tram, that's okay, that still counts. Sometimes the people will just appear like quite visibly in front of you, that still counts. So this is 3 out of 3. And there's our first, well, that appeared, so let's call it 4 out of 4. But, you know, this is what I mean by low priority spawns. Like, those pets will be spawned in at the last minute usually. And that's why this is a good measure. Let's see, that's gonna be 5 for 5 so far. So I think my modded game is pretty stable. I'm gonna keep testing it maybe, but I'm pretty happy with it right now. It's 6 out of 6. And I will be sharing everything with you guys, okay? You will get my whole mod list, you will get my merge settings, you will get everything. It's just that I want to get this information out so you can test your spawns for yourself. In while we are 7 out of 7 here. 8 out of 8. And no game configs are gonna help you. 9 out of 9. And let's find the last one. Okay, so we got 10 out of 10 this time around, okay, which is great. Obviously, that's very good. And I trust that to be a good tool. You can test on your own game and see that I'm full of shit or not. I leave it up to you. I think this is an extremely good way of measuring stability for your game. Just please run with it. Just reiterate on it. Feel free to do some more tests. And this is what it is. If you have any questions, please tell me about it below in the comments. Anything you might have, my ears are open. I cannot spend more time on this, or like I think I am onto something, at least for the testing methodology. I don't have the exact solutions, I don't have the answers for you guys for the exact causes, but I think we can at least start measuring this in a way that is gonna be benefiting the community. Okay, chicken run, send a tram run, okay? And take care, guys. Take care.